Having bid my farewells to new-formed bonds in Tokyo, I returned to home soil, holding my memories from abroad close to my heart. Among the threadwork of these lingering ties was Midori, an enduring friendship kindled during my internship at a top design firm. Against the backdrop of subtle cherry blossom hues, we built a shared sphere of whiskey-laced laughter and whispered dreams, elegantly juxtaposing the steel-framed realities of our careers. Gathered under the paper lanterns for a farewell dinner, a sense of nostalgia ebbed within me at the sight of Tokyo's skyline. Everyone around the table was a storyteller, recounting tales of how a young design student from Seoul had consumed the city's vibrant hues to tint the canvas of her creative spirit. Their words painted a bittersweet image of my evolution, of how I arrived as a wide-eyed intern, but was leaving as a seasoned design professional. Peeking out of the frame of their tales was one of my favorite narratives, the one where we celebrated Sakura evenings after work, with warm sake and creative bouts, playfully visualizing skyscrapers and cities on the back of paper napkins. These memories, this meta-journey of foreign lands, was now an integral part of me, shaping my creative essence, expanding my palette of experiences apart from just norm and routine. Saying goodbye was akin to closing a book that was hastily read, promising to be picked up again and pored over, through memories and reunions. The intoxicating aroma of soba noodles wafted through the air as memories fermented in the ancient sake brewery. The evening was quilted with an essence of rawness only goodbyes could bring. A touch melancholic, yet profoundly liberating. Brimming with emotions, I promised myself that this was merely a pause and not the end. Just as the sakura blossoms graciously let go each year only to come back with an effortless charm, I too would return to these streets and people that had sheltered me, inspired me, and crafted the designer that stood amongst them today. With my vision blurred by unshed tears and heart pounding with gratitude, I raised a glass to these Tokyo nights. Etching this moment within me, I glanced around at everyone, individuals who had now become chapters of my life's unscripted novel. As laughter echoed around the room, I realized my time in Tokyo was always going to be a currency of growth, a source of motivation, a catapult for the challenges awaiting my return home. With the starlit cityscape witnessing our shared reluctance to call it a night, we said our goodbyes till the rising sun began to color the dimly lit lanes. The farewell was not to the people or the place, but to an era, a piece of my timeline that had nurtured me as I explored my strengths, navigated my weaknesses, and forged my identity within the bustling crowds of this cosmopolitan island. Little did I know I was on the precipice of a new horizon. Returning to my roots sparked a cherished, almost comforting routine of familiarity, self-reflection, and pondering on the lessons that life often disguised as momentary experiences. The humdrum of daily life, paired with habitual introspection, sewed in, like patches into the quilt of my existence, a newfound appreciation for diverse cultures. In the autumn of 2023, the winds of the Han River whispered tales of a fresh calling, and I heard them, resolute. In the cradle of my own city, I sought a dash of foreign flavor, a palate cleanser after years of intricate design and strategic planning. Almost instinctively, I found myself drawn to the rich, nuanced culture of Italy, embedding the beautiful rhythm of Italian cooking into my mosaic of experiences. Italian cuisine, I had always felt, was a symphony wrapped inside a riddle, exquisite and complex with undertones of familiarity cocooned in pure novelty. Intrigued by the magical blend of flavors, I enrolled for cooking classes, anchored on a whim but driven by an underlying captivation for new experiences. What began as a simple act of exploring the culinary mosaic slowly transpired into an adventure of unearthing veiled facets of my being. With each recipe, each slice, each stir and simmer, I felt a piece of my perspective scrap off, pushing me to envelop a part of the Italian culture into my identity. The rustic earthiness of the lasagna mirrored strength. The passionately tender risotto reflected patience, while the aromatic tiramisu was a sheer testament of the joy in delayed gratification. A venture which started as a weekend self-care regimen soon snowballed into a beacon of personal development. While kneading the dough or adding a dash of aromatic spices to the simmering sauce, I unraveled a meta-world where creation was not just limited to imaginative sketches or harnessing software modules. Here, in the realm of culinary escapades, creation was a manifestation of love and nurturance, poured into each dish with an artistic fervor. Having mastered numerous Italian dishes in the confines of my city kitchen, a newfound excitement stirred within me. The culinary world unfolded before my senses like a delicately crafted, open-faced book, the pages of which I was just beginning to flip. Entranced by the allure of creating something tangible and satisfying out of scratch, I began to see parallels between my work as a designer and my newfound passion for cooking. Much like the ideation and execution involved in designing a new electric vehicle model, every Italian recipe demanded careful selection of ingredients, precise measurements, and a whole lot of patience. But most importantly, it required an unwavering sense of joy and love, the two emotions I allowed myself to get completely lost in. Cooking classes became more than a learning experience. Each session started with a standard recipe, but I found creative freedom within these constraints. I marinated the lamb for my ragu recipe longer. I used a different blend of cheese in my lasagna. I lessened the sugar in my tiramisu, all intuitive, subtle adjustments, wielding my creative prowess, similar to how I would modify a design at work. Every time I experimented with a recipe, I could hear the whispering symphony of my creativity soar, painting the canvas of my senses with delectable strokes of poignant significance, much like my industrial sketches being converted into tangible products. Each stride in the kitchen led me closer to the symphony that Italian cuisine was to my years of intricate designing and strategic planning. To anyone else, the weekend sojourns might have appeared as culinary adventures. But to me, they were the strokes of a paintbrush, dappling my life's canvas with bright hues of personal growth, resilience, and innovation. In the realm of Italian cooking, I was the sculptor and the sculpted, tempering my artistic instincts, just like kneading the dough for a fresh focaccia loaf or creating an innovative part for a new electric vehicle model. Sautéing the onions until they were caramelized, or stirring the risotto until it achieved the perfect creaminess, I found my solace. Just like attentive designing required me to manipulate 3D models, cooking demanded me to establish a rhythm with my ingredients, a cadence that was meditative. In this unlikely parallel between my industrial designing and my newfound passion of Italian cooking, I discovered a sense of harmony, balance. While drawing blueprints and modeling chassis felt methodical, cooking exhilarated my senses with poetic character. I wasn't just exploring the culinary world, I was cultivating a newfound realm of creative instincts. The entire process was a testament to my ability to infuse creativity into every endeavor of life. In the classrooms of the cookery school, amidst the aroma of freshly made pasta and simmering tomato sauce, a subtle shift in me began to take shape, triggering an uncanny echo of the experiences I had in the design studio. Every class had me eagerly peeking into the pages of a culture rich in history, tradition, and surges of flavors. A peek that would ultimately lead me to some invaluable culinary skills and a suite of exciting, heartwarming recipes that everyone loves. I would follow the recipes diligently, each measuring spoon or cup of an ingredient, each swirl of the penny in the pot, each fold of a sheet into a lasagna, was akin to the attention to detail I paid when designing a new model at Volt Motors. But what fascinated me about both cooking and designing was their mutual malleability. Just as I found ways to innovate and improvise in my professional projects, similarly in the kitchen, I discovered the freedom to deviate from the recipe, to trust my instincts, and to experiment. A commitment to the recipe but in sync with my own insights began to shape my mastery over Italian cooking. Perhaps I generously stuffed my ravioli with ricotta, or sprinkled my spaghetti with extra Parmigiano Reggiano. I was being creative. I was being myself. Akin to reworking a design are counterpart culinary improvisations up to taste or dietary preferences, demonstrating the spirit of innovation in the same breath. In the process, whether it was the al dente toothsome swing of a spaghetti twirl or a perfectly symmetric car model, what mattered was the joy of creating something uniquely mine, bearing my signature, and enriched with personal experiences. In the face of both a sketchpad and a stovetop, I began to understand more deeply how I could influence the final output with my individual touch. The feeling of satisfaction on producing a successful design at work, and the pleasure of seeing a perfectly executed tiramisu, share the same place in my heart. They are both expressions of creation characterized by the intricacy of details, the harmony of elements, and the representation of the creator's soul through their work. As I continued to explore and learn, I found myself feeling even more connected to my work at Volt Motors. It felt as if the kitchen served as a metaphor somehow for my design space, with all experiments, successes, and even disappointments reflecting my journey as a designer. The mastery over Italian cooking may not have directly affected my designs, but it undoubtedly provided a fresh perspective, one which has enhanced my approach towards creativity and innovation. My newfound love for Italian cooking gave me another proud skill but also allowed me to turn the mirror towards myself, enhancing my knack for innovation and improvisation, both in life and in the workplace. Before I knew it, September had rolled around and it was time to put my Italian skills on display. Each week, I'd joined groups of strangers in the cooking school, much like how I'd bonded with the design team at Volt Motors as soon as we got to know each other. The summer had flown past with me lost in the midst of selecting ingredients or studying videos and books. For the first time after my Tokyo experience, I was ready to immerse myself in a completely different scenario altogether, this time away from the humdrum of metropolitan life. It was a family gathering that was planned, a weekend in the countryside with fresh air and my hopefully edible Italian cooking. As we drove through the winding country roads, my mind shifted gears from the fast-paced industry work to the serene and unhurried way of countryside life, utterly refreshing, albeit slightly nerve-wracking, given I was about to serve my first fully self-cooked Italian meal to my parents. A rustic kitchen awaited me, a completely different arena, but the feeling was the same. A familiar rush of adrenaline was present, as it is when I approach a new project at Volt Motors. My mother stirred the pasta as I prepared the pesto, workers on a design, their creation taking form bit by bit. The robust smell of basil, the strong and earthy bite of garlic all mixed symphonically, just as modeling clay gave form to a shapeless idea. Dishing out portions onto the plates, the comforting aroma of fresh basil, garlic, and pasta wafted throughout the room. It dawned on me then, just as a single axle or a tiny bolt is key for my design at work, in the kitchen, a single ingredient, a measure of salt, or even the amount of heat, can be crucial to the outcome. As I watched my family savor the meal, I couldn't help but chuckle at the similarity between this moment and the unveiling of a new design. The look of appraisal, of critique, and finally of enjoyment, it's the same slice of gratification that comes after seeing people appreciate a new vehicle model in the showroom. The same pride, the same sense of accomplishment and relief of seeing your efforts, your creation being appreciated. Be it the design of an electric bike or a simple plate of pasta, the experience was more fulfilling than I had imagined. What started as a goal on a checklist was now a part of my life, another layer to my persona, a new skill I was proud to possess. But it was more than just about learning how to cook or adding an extra line on my bio. It was about stepping out of my comfort zone, soaking in a new culture, fostering my creativity, and most importantly, strengthening my relationship with my family. I stood there basking in the warmth of familiar ties, contented smiles, and a hearty homemade Italian meal, feeling a sense of accomplishment wash over me. Cooking for my family was more than just showcasing my newly acquired culinary skills. It served as a catalyst, helping me bridge a gap that existed between my professional life and my personal sphere. As we sat down for dinner, I realized that I wasn't just cooking an Italian delicacy. I was cooking a story of my journey, a trail that intertwines different experiences, emotions, and achievements. My loved ones didn't just taste the food, but they tasted the same adventure as I had as their senses transported them to the heart of Italy. They relished each morsel, got a glimpse of the diversified woman I had become, and for the first time, I felt they truly understood what I strived for in both my professional and personal life. My parents tasted the delicate balance, the inherent negotiations of strong and mild flavors, much like the balance and negotiation between my creativity and deadlines at my work. For them, it wasn't just pesto pasta anymore. It was a metaphor of my experiences, a reflection of my creative endeavors in design. They understood how I remolded myself as per the demands of my circumstances, just like how each ingredient in the dish lent itself to create a harmonious taste. As the night wore on, I saw barriers melt, understanding being born, and conversations bloom that previously were impeded by different interests and generational gaps. It was as if Italian cooking served as a universal language, helping us convey and understand each other in ways we hadn't before. That night, we reconnected through shared stories and experiences, something that was long overdue. It wasn't merely my parents appreciating their daughter's diversified skills, but it was a family coming together to understand the essence of my journey and cherishing unforgettable memories and laughters, all over a plate of pesto pasta. Looking back, my excursion into Italian cooking was never just about learning how to whip up a spaghetti carbonara or throwing together a caprese salad. The kitchen was my canvas, and each dish was an art piece. From hunting for the right ingredients to the meticulous labor over the stove, the process was akin to designing, engaging, challenging, and ultimately satisfying. With each stroke of the knife and each stir of the sauce, I found myself getting in sync with a culture completely different from my own. My pasta wasn't just pasta anymore. It was an amalgamation of Italian passion and my Asian meticulousness, the perfect blend of contrasting styles giving way to an unparalleled experience. Every dish I created packed more than just lip-smacking flavors. It was the embodiment of my own personal journey of exploration, both as a cook and a designer. This became more than just ticking a task off my bucket list. It became the process of molding myself into a more rounded individual. My lifelong pursuit of knowledge and growth pushed me to challenge myself, to take risks and embrace unfamiliar traditions. My attempt to master Italian cooking led me to discover a whole new side of me, a side that was adventurous, empathetic, and open to new experiences. This one decision set off a domino effect that transcended the walls of my career and ventured into personal territories. For every change comes unease, and in this case, I was the novice again. Every step brought a new challenge, every ingredient a new task. But just like my job at Volt Motors, I tackled them all head-on, braving each challenge and relishing every victory. Cooking Italian food turned out to be my taste of Italy, my tangible connection to the land of legends and lore. Staying true to my character, the industrious and focused Jiwoo, I persevered and embraced the learning curve wholeheartedly. Italian cooking quickly transitioned from merely a hobby to a metaphor for personal growth. My submersion in the world of Italian cuisine allowed me to explore a universe beyond myself and to immerse myself in the traditions, tastes, and rhythms of a vibrant, passionate spectrum I previously knew little about. In it, I found not just another string to my bow, but also an avenue of cultural exploration that opened my mind to new experiences and ideas.